everyone, it's Narelle here. In today's video I'd like to show you a few ways of filling text in Sure Cuts A Lot 5 so that you get a better result when you're using the We Are Memory Keepers foil quill. As you may know, when using the foil quill you select the draw line type in Design Space, and then your text is treated as if you were using a pen in your Cricut. But unless you're using a Cricut writing font, your Cricut's going to just draw around the edge of your letters. So on the left here I've got the words thank you, and I've used a font, and it's a Cricut writing font called Cricut Sans, and I've selected the writing style from here. So that way that's where the pen would follow if I was drawing, and that's exactly the same way that the foil quill will treat that text. So that's the result you would get from sending that to your Cricut. On the right hand side here is the same text where I haven't selected the writing style, but I've gone up to the line type here and I've selected draw. So in the same way now, if I send that to the Cricut and I have my foil quill inserted, what's going to happen is it's going to draw around the edge of those letters there. So wherever you see the black line, that's where the foil is going to be applied. And I'll show you here what that's going to look like. So here's again the words thank you that I've used with a different font. In this case it's Samantha, and you can see here that it's again just applied the foil to anywhere where it saw the black edge of those letters. And that's great if that's the look that you like, but if you want something that's going to show up a little bit better on your project, you can do a couple of things in Sure Cuts A Lot. So I'll show you just here. So this is another version, the exact same text, but this time I've used an inset shadow. And I've actually created multiple inset shadows, and every time I've done that, each shadow has become smaller, and then that gives me extra lines. So all of those extra lines, the foil quill is going to go over when you send that to your Cricut. So the next way that I've done that is called a line fill, and in this case it's a hatch line fill, and I'll show you how I did that. So again, all of those lines have been added extra to those letters, so wherever a Design Space sees an extra black line, that's where the foil quill is going to follow. So I'm going to go over to Sure Cuts A Lot now so that I can show you how to do this. So here we are in Sure Cuts A Lot 5. Now both of these options I'm pretty sure are available also in Sure Cuts A Lot 4. I'm not sure about earlier versions, but in Sure Cuts A Lot 4 I do know that the line fill is definitely there. It just doesn't have as many options, but you still can do what we're going to be doing today. But the first way I'm going to show you is using the inset shadow. So I'm going to just add some text to my mat here, and I'll do the same words that I did on my other example. So there's my text there. I'll make this bigger so that we can see that, but you can see at the moment, especially with the Samantha font, it does leave a lot of space in between the two lines, but it's very easy to fix that. Just go over to this text option here, and you're going to change the number that's in this leading box here. So I'm just going to click the down arrow on that to make that smaller, and each time I click on that it's going to bring that those two lines of text closer together. So when I've got that to where I want it, I'm going to select that, and that's all I need to do there. Now you can also see, and I'll make this bigger so that you can really see that my letters here, so the H when it joins up with the A isn't welded, so that is exactly where, if I left it like this, this is where the foil quill would actually write. Now you don't want that to actually happen, and it's very easy to fix that. So again, you just go back up here to the path menu and you select Union, and Union is the same thing as what you would use weld for in Design Space. So there's my text ready to go, and I'll again make this a bit bigger so we can see what we're doing. Now what I've got here showing on screen is just the outlines of that text. If I go up to view and turn that show outlines only off, you'll see the fill of all of that as well. But I'm going to turn that off so that you can actually see what happens when we use these line fill options. So I'll turn that back on. And then I'm going to go up to the effects menu. So from the effects menu, I'm going to go down here to where it says shadow layer contour cut. So I'll select that one, and you can see that a shadow has been placed around the outside of my text. Now I don't want it to be around the outside, I actually want it, and I'll change the color of that so we can see the difference here. So let me select a red. Okay, so now you can see there's my shadow. So my original text there, when I hover over this, is green, and my shadow is red. But I don't want it to be on the outside. I actually want that shadow to go onto the inside of the letters. So to do that, I just click on Inset Shadow, and now that shadow has been moved to the inside. So that's one shadow. So that's an extra line that the foil quill is going to draw over. So currently you now have 2 lines that the foil quill will draw, but we want to actually add more. So to do that, we go over here to Layer Count, and then each time I click on that, it's going to add another inset shadow. So I'll click there. So there's my second one, and a third, and a fourth. Now you can go up to 10. It does allow you to go up to 10, but at this point if I try and add another one, nothing's actually going to happen because there's not enough room to actually create another shadow. But if I do want more, because at the moment you can see there are still spaces in between those lines, I can actually go up here to the size option, and I can change the size of the spaces between those different shadows. So what I'm going to do is go in here, and I'm going to go to 0.02, and I'll click enter, and you can see now that those lines are a lot closer together, and that then allows me to go and add extra shadows again, but again only up to 10. So that means now that there's only this tiny little space in between some of those letters that aren't going to have any foil applied. So that's at the stage where I like what it looks like. So I'm just going to click OK, and then that text is then ready to send into Design Space. So I'll just make that a bit smaller, and then all I need to do now, what's actually happened there is because when I added my shadow, it keeps the original word, but all of these shadows are put on a different layer, and you can see that over here on my layers panel here, that I've got my shadow layers, which is those 10 shadows that I created, plus my original text. What I need to do is group those 2 layers. So I'm just going to undo where I've resized that. Okay, so there's everything back how it was. So I'm going to select all of that, and then I'm going to select Object, and then I'm going to select Group. So now over here I've got one group that includes all of those shadows and my original text. Now I'll just resize that, and the whole thing resizes, and then I can go to File, Export, and then I can export this as an SVG, and I'll call this New Shadow Layer, and I'm saving that into this Scale 5 directory that I created. And then from the export options, I just make sure Design Space Compatible is selected, and then I click OK, and that one's then ready to bring into Design Space. So let's go ahead and do that. Grab this text and move that out of the way, and then we're going to go upload image, browse, and then it's this first one here because I've got all my files showing in order of date. So now I can just click that first one. And it's going to take a little while to upload because there are a lot of layers. There's not just one outline of text, there's that outline of text plus 10 identical but smaller versions of that text as well. So there's my text there. I'm going to click Save. And again, it'll take a little while to come up into Design Space. So there's my word there. So I'm going to click on that, click Insert Images, and there's that there. Now at the moment it just looks like your regular text, and that's because it's set to the cut line type. So now I click on that and select Draw, and then you will see the change there. And if you look over on the panel over here on the right, you can see each of those layers there. That's the shadow layer that we've created. So there should be 10 of those, and then also my original thank you text. Now we have one more step before we can go and send this to the Cricut Explore or Maker. And if you have a look over here in our layers panel, you'll see that we've got all these different layers. Now we have to attach those, because if we don't, they're all going to be drawn as separate objects on different places of the mat. So what I do is I have, with all of those selected, I just go down here to the Attach button and click that, and they'll now all be attached and they'll draw one on top of the other. So now all I need to do is send that off to my Cricut Explore or Cricut Maker, whichever you're using. You heat up the foil quill for at least 5 minutes so that it's nice and hot. You'll insert that into the A slot on your Cricut, and then you will send that off, and it will go along each of those individual lines, and then it will give you this effect here that I showed you just before. So that's what you're going to get there. So you'll see there are a few, on this example here, there are a few little places that didn't actually get foiled. That's partly because of the texture of the cardstock I used, but also as I showed you before, these little white spaces that are in here, they won't have any foil applied to them, and that's what's happened here. Is on this version, when I created that, some of these spots here didn't actually have a line, a black line there for the foil quill to go over. So that's why you're seeing those blank spaces. So that was that way of doing that. So what I'll do now is I'll go back to Design Space and I'll show you how to do this version. So we'll just move this one out of the way here, go back to Sure Cuts a Lot, and let's get rid of that one over to the side, and we'll recreate this text again. And again, I need to change that leading space there. Oops, try that. There we go. And I'll make that bigger. And again, I've got to weld all these letters together, so I go up to Path Union, and now I can go and add that line fill effect. So again, I'm going to go to the Effects menu. I'm going to select Line Fill, and then I'm going to click this Auto Preview button so that as I change things, you're going to see them actually happen here without me having to press the Preview button. So at the moment, these settings are the default settings, possibly, or they may be the settings that I had them on the last time I used this feature. So I'm going to click Auto Preview, and you can see that it's now showing you this hatched effect here using the settings that are currently here. Now I can go and change all of these things. So if I want the angle of these hatches to be horizontal and vertical, I'll just change that here in the angle box. So if I change that up to, say, go to 90, you're going to have basically vertical and horizontal hatches, but then it's entirely up to you how you want those hatches to look. You can also change the spacing of these so that there's more space between them. Obviously, the closer they are together, the more lines there are going to be on your project. The larger the project size is going to be and the longer it's going to take to actually draw. So for example, that previous one that I just showed you where I used the borders, that took about 5 to 6 minutes to draw in total, whereas this one here, because there are so many more lines, it's going to probably take you like say 15 to 20 minutes depending on how wide you make these hatches. So to change that, you just do that here in the line spacing. So I'm going to go up and you'll see the lines. So you'll see, there you go, you can see the spaces going bigger there. So each of those lines is what's going to draw. So that's going to give you one effect, but if you want those to be closer, you just change that. Now you can change that to 0, but it doesn't seem to have any effect at all whether you are on 0 or whether you're on 1. It kind of stays the same. The other option that you can change here is you can choose to keep the original outline so that it also draws that. But if I turn that off, you can see that that outside outline has disappeared, and all that's going to happen is there's just those hatches that are going to be drawn. But I actually like it with the outline on, so I'm going to turn that back on. Now the other option here is the cross hatch number. So as I change that, you can see that it's going to get more and more lines. Now as I said, remember every time you add another set of lines, that's going to extend the amount of time that it actually takes to draw this, because there's going to be physically hundreds and hundreds of lines that it has to cut. So for me, for the result that I like, just going back to 1 is enough to give me a really good result, and that's what you can see here. Just having 1 on there, that's the result that I got. But again, if you want to, you can go in here and you can change that and add more lines, but just remember it's going to take longer to draw, and it's going to take a lot longer to actually upload into Design Space. And if you have too many lines, you may find that it's just too complicated for Design Space to actually upload. So I'm going to leave that at 1. I'm happy with the angle that it is. The other thing you can do too is if you go to this the number here and you actually change that to 0, all you're going to get is just the one set of lines in one direction, and that is also really effective and can look great. And again, you can change the angle there. So if you want those to be, say, horizontal, you can just do that. Or if you want them to be vertical, you can just keep going until you've got them vertical. But again, just play with the angle of how you like them. And as I said, just having the one set of lines going in one direction can look really effective also. So a few different things that you can do there. So again, what I'll do is I'll just leave it at that for this time. So I'll select OK, and then you're ready to go again and export it. So I'm going to make that a bit smaller. Now I don't have to worry about grouping anything in this case because I've only still got the one layer, but it's been filled with different lines and they don't create their own layer. So now I just again go File, Export, and this one I'll call Hatch Fill, and I'll select Save. Again, Design Space compatible, and OK. I'll go back to Design Space, select Upload, Upload Image, and Browse. Select my next one. And this one didn't take quite as long to upload, but if I had made it much more complicated, it would have taken a lot longer. So let's go Save. We'll select that one and bring that in. And again, I need to go up to Line Type and change that to Draw. And there you can see. So in this way, this one here was a little bit harder to see what you were actually getting. But in this one, it's obvious exactly what's going to happen. So then again, that's ready then to go and send off to the Cricut so that it draws that and then foils that onto your cardstock. So hopefully that was helpful and gives you a couple of ideas of how to get different effects using the foil quill. It's a great product, but depending on obviously the colour of the cardstock that you're using or the colour of the foil, it may show up better if you do go and fill some of these things with lines or extra shadows. So do let me know if you have any questions. Please feel free to comment below and I'll try and help you out. Would love it if you would like and subscribe, and let me know if there's anything else that you'd like me to help you with. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.